They all laughed at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. They all laughed when Edison recorded sound.
It's a very witty song, very sort of unexpected rhythms in some respects, and they're played with magnificently by Astaire and Rogers in that.
It's interesting to note in Shall We Dance that in addition to writing several songs that have now become standards, George also insisted on writing several ballet sequences that underscore the movie. The most familiar piece of underscore from Shall We Dance is the dog walking sequence that was ubiquitous for that time. It's music that George Gershwin scored himself. In other words, he orchestrated it. He didn't hand that over to someone else to score. And it was his inside joke about the overblown orchestras of Hollywood. Because every time Gershwin would write a song, they would say, oh, we'll have 60 men played, we'll have 70, we'll have 80, we'll have a huge orchestra. And it was that axiom in Hollywood, bigger is better. But Gershwin scored the music of the dog walking sequence for only 13 or 14 instruments because he wanted it to be a little chamber piece. And it's charming that way. One of the last songs that they wrote in that early part of their stay in Hollywood was They Can't Take That Away From Me. And George was very, very pleased with that song. They Can't Take That Away From Me is an example of a song that was worked through beautifully by George and Ira and shows how wonderfully they collaborated together.
When George and Ira would write songs, George could be found noodling at the piano, and Ira would have a pad of paper and a pencil sitting in a chair behind him. It could start very simple, with 3/8 notes and a quarter note. That's how the song, They Can't Take That Away From Me, began. When George played that little motif for Ira, Ira said, George, if you could give me 2 more notes at the top of that, I could give you The Way You Wear Your Hat, the birth of a song.
They Can't Take That Away From Me is a song that was nominated for an Academy Award. It's a song that George and Ira absolutely loved. They were very proud of it from its beginnings. And George did not live to see the nomination of They Can't Take That Away From Me. Gershwin had a brain tumor. And suddenly to see this man's life snuffed out at the age of 38 was incomprehensible to most people. Of all of those who were affected, the person who was most affected was George's older brother, Ira. And Ira suddenly was bereft not only of his closest friend and his working partner, but a soulmate.
In a letter that Daddy wrote to Aunt Deli just after George Gershwin died, he says, "Wasn't it sad about poor Georgie Gershwin? He had a rotten time, out of his mind, the last few days. And then Ira told me the last word he spoke was my name."
And when Fred Astaire came over to the house to pay his respects to Ira, that's the first time Ira burst into tears, seeing Fred. It was the song They Can't Take That Away From Me that helped bring Ira back to life. After George's passing, Ira was listening to these recordings from Shall We Dance and the recording of They Can't Take That Away From Me. And he said that he felt as if George was speaking to him and saying to him, "You've got to go on. You've got to keep working." And Ira said that that was the first time that he felt that he might be able to continue on in the world. To be able to see the greatest work of the Gershwins with the greatest work of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and all the other artists contributing, it's something that's very special. We're very lucky that these films survive.
The way you've changed my life, no, no, they can't take that away from me, no, they can't take that away from me.